All right. Wow, great. What's up? Everybody have a good lunch? Yeah? All right. So, like I said, my name's Bobcat, and I feel that food and eating is the most important act of human existence. And I'm going to lay that all out on the table for you. But first, I'll give you a little bit of intro about myself. So, I grew up in an Italian family. Like I said, food is the center of the universe. We didn't just celebrate holidays for religious reasons. We did it for the food. And then after working in several fields, I started working at camps with kids in environmental education, and I discovered that I really liked working with kids. But then I decided I wanted to change gears, and I helped a good friend start a farm where not only do we grow delicious, nutritious food for our community, but educating kids and people of all ages is a big part of what we do on the farm. So here's a couple of quick slides of the farm. You know, we grow indoors, outdoors. We do something called aquaponics, lots of education, farmers markets. We raise tilapia, have a plant nursery, all this cool stuff. Even our dog loves veggies. So, like I said, I think that eating is the greatest thing we do. And because the choices that we make every single day, they impact our bodies and they impact our world. So I've always been a good eater. I always eat whatever's put in front of me, sometimes everything that's put in front of me. And when I was working at these camps with the kids, we'd sit down in the dining hall and eat with the kids. And I had access to unlimited food. It was kind of included in my pay. So at that point in time, I thought, well, the more food that I ate, it was like the more money I was making, right? But at some point, I started to think a little bit deeper. You know, what is eating really, you know? So obviously, it's a basic need of human survival, right? We all need it to survive. But it's so much more than that. It's been commercialized. It can be gluttonous and mindless. It can be deadly. For some, it's about nutrition. It could be a vice. It's a chore. You know, it brings pleasure and pain. So food means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But it's whatever we want it to be. Food is essentially the fuel in our tank that we need to get through our day. But it's one thing to just survive. It's a whole other thing to thrive. So in working with the kids, I started to realize the disconnection that people have with food, myself included. It's part of the reason why I decided to start farming. So it has a huge impact on our bodies, our minds, and our souls. It's true when they say you are what you eat. But do we really want to be cheap, fast, easy, and wasteful? So, now most people know eating natural, whole, unprocessed foods, it's not only better for our health, but it's better for our environment, right? But there's this common misconception that eating healthy has to be expensive. First of all, why would you put a price on one of the few things you actually put into your body? And second of all, when looking at the whole value of the transaction, it's important to take into account the hidden costs of food. Not only a lot of the tax breaks and subsidies that are going to these big farms, but also on the back end, the healthcare costs involved with a nationwide epidemic of unhealthy eating. So a lot of people think, you know, eating healthy is also inconvenient. They don't have time to cook. Well, all the best things in life, it takes some work. They don't always come easy. But there's plenty of time in the day. If we have time to surf the web and watch our favorite TV shows, shouldn't we make the time to cook ourselves nutritious food? So to me, one of the most important things related to food is the economic impact. There's small towns all over America that are revitalizing their local economies through local farms and local food. There's a town, Hardwich, Vermont. They wrote a book about it called The Town That Food Saved. So all over the place, people are starting to move away from traditional grocery stores and into alternative methods of getting their food. When you shop at a traditional grocery store, only a small percentage of that money you spend is staying in your community. Whereas when you support your local farms and local food producers and local restaurants, a much larger chunk of that money is staying in your community, supporting local businesses, creating jobs, not to mention the deeper connection that you have with your food, to know your farmers and to know your food. So 3 times a day, every day, we're making these choices. They impact our health, our environment, our economy. But as much as I love local and organic food, sometimes it's just not practical. You're just not able to eat like that all the time. But if there's one thing I really want you guys to go home with is try to be more conscious of what you're eating, thinking about where that food's coming from, how it's produced, and just own it, own those decisions. If you can't eat healthy, that's fine, as long as you're okay with that. But it doesn't have to be all or nothing, right? Just because maybe you don't have the time to eat healthy all the time doesn't give you the excuse to never do it. So I think that eating is actually more important than voting for president. Every time you eat, you're voting with your dollar. You're supporting the businesses that you want to support, the kind of farms you want to support, what kind of labor practices that are going into that food, how many miles the food has traveled, use of pesticides, the impact on the environment and the land. So there's a lot of stuff to take into consideration. So let's think about this for a second. Voting for president. Every 4 years, let's say about 60 years of your life, you're going to vote in presidential elections. That's 15 elections, right? Think about how much effort we put into voting for president. Now think about voting with your food dollars every time you eat, 3 times a day, 365 days a year. That's over 1,000 votes that you're casting every year. Now times that in that 60-year period, 65,000 votes. Okay, so to me, this is like one of the biggest things. If you think about those two numbers together, 15 to 65, I know if you guys are like me, you like visuals, I made this really awesome graph. On the left there, you got presidential elections in blue at 15, and voting with your food dollars, 65,000, right? Quite a dramatic difference. I know I was almost going to go into graphic design, but I chose farming. So, you know, I know what you guys are thinking. The topic of the day is we must do. You're thinking, but Bobcat, I want to eat healthy. I want to support local farms. I just don't know where to start. Well, don't worry. I'm glad you asked that. I'm going to tell you guys about that right now. What can you do? Well, first off, try to cook more, right? There's, like I said, plenty of time in a day. You just got to make the time. Try to use fresh, natural, unprocessed, and in-season ingredients whenever possible. Said avoid grocery stores if possible. There's lots of other alternative methods, health food stores, co-ops, buy-in clubs, or better yet, buy directly from farmers, farmers markets, roadside stands, or community-supported agriculture. And I see a bunch of our CSA members in the audience, and that's great. So for those of you that don't know what a CSA is, I recommend you looking into it. And now I know it's unrealistic. You're not going to cook all the time. So when you go out, support those local restaurants over chain restaurants. And there's a simple question you could ask your server every time you're out at a restaurant. Say, do you happen to have any local food on the menu? When you start to find out which restaurants do, try to support them more than those that don't. It will make a huge difference. And now a lot of you guys here probably already do most of this stuff. Well, you could do it more and educate your friends and family, because it could have an exponential impact on our entire community. So it's important to start small. Every little bit helps. If you just chose 1 meal a week to try to eat healthy local food, that equals 52 times a year. That's over 3,000 times in a year. It doesn't seem like a lot, but every little bit helps. So in closing, the decisions we make every day, it affects our bodies, our communities, and the world. And so the single greatest act of human existence, it's not something we do with our brains or even with our hearts. It's through our stomachs that we can truly change the world. Thank you.